Friends are important in life. They provide stability. A caring ear to bend, a shoulder to cry on. But then again, sometimes they can be downright evil and rotten. I think Bobby Heenan summed it up best once when he said, "A friend in need is a pest." Well, a mate of mine told me I should check out a game on MAME that he thought I would really like. He said it was a racing game, but it was more like a cops and robbers racing game, but without the robbers. So I was curious, and then he told me the game was Cisco Heat, and I just shrieked, as if I had trodden on a piece of Lego on the floor at 3:30 in the morning. For you see, this was a game I had seen many years ago in Slated, but the sheer horrors of the game have lived on, finding a place in the back of my mind to remind me that the world is a cruel place. Cisco Heat was an apparent racing game, developed and published in arcades by Jalico. Players control a police squad car racing against computer-controlled vehicles. The goal is to finish each race in first place. Players can take different routes to bypass certain portions of the course. Cisco Heat was designed by many former employees of Sega who had left the company to form Bitbox. But if you replace the first B with the letters S and H, you would get a more accurate name of the company. And honestly, if this was the best they could come up with, then I doubt they left Sega by will. If I was in charge at Sega and had been presented this, I would have went full Bill Murray from Scrooged and fired them, all while looking through a telescope from my office to see them being dumped on the street. But, as this was a request from a mate, I felt like I had to honour his request and relive the nightmare that is Cisco Heat. In Cisco Heat, players control a police squad car through San Francisco in an attempt to win the National Championship Police Car Steeplechase in first place. The racing takes place in San Francisco and even contains sections featuring famous landmarks from the city, namely the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz and tramcars, as well as several features such as steep dives, 90-degree turns and multiple selectable routes, which can allow players to bypass certain portions of the race and shortcut to another area. Gameplay is similar to Outrun and Chase HQ, where players must race against computer-controlled vehicles to the end of each section. But unlike Outrun and Chase HQ, this game seems to have taken some influence from Driving Miss Daisy, as the game is unbelievably slow. It even has a cheek to offer the choice of cornering or speed, and neither car does anything particularly well. I mean, just have a look at this speedo. It says I am maxed out, but it just feels so slow, like I'm driving with the handbrake on. It's a real shame too, as visually this game is actually pretty good for the most part. The sprite scaling is decent, And that is obviously all the ex-Sega team learned while working for the masters of sprite scaling. The cars look pretty decent too, as do the roads. The hills in particular help create this feeling of trying to bomb down the road. But it's just so unfortunate that the whole game moves at this really slow pace. The sound is not absolutely terrible, but it does sound more like it's from a home micro. The engine whine and hum sounds like pole position on a Commodore 64, and the sound of the sirens gets so annoying after a while as well. You do get other sounds for the tram bells and tyre screeching, but none of it is great. There is no in-game music as well, which is a cardinal sin for a racing game in my opinion, as a pumping soundtrack really does help with the overall feeling of speed, which this game is clearly lacking. The playability has some flaws, the speed, which I have already mentioned, but there are also 90-degree corners that appear that really do disrupt the already slow pace of the action, and given that this game is sprite based and not full on 3D, the first time you play, you think the CPU will just take over at this point and turn you around, but then you chicken out and you turn also. So you get this situation where it's difficult to keep the car on the road. Full points for being bold, but no points for a bad execution. Thankfully the game does not take too long to beat, and it's a real oddity in the world of video games. Too slow to be considered a racer, too boring to be considered entertaining. I am not sure what part of the market J-Loco were aiming for here, and in 1990 there were so many better games to play. As I mentioned, I did see this in the arcades. I did watch the track sequence a few times, but I can't say I was ever compelled to put in my money and have a play. In fact, I did hear quite a few people say the game was absolutely dire, and they warned people away from it. Those brave souls doing their public duty and saving unsuspecting punters from wasting their 50p. And I have to say, even after 30 years, those people should be commended, as this game is just truly awful. I was shocked to hear that it got a port over to just about every home format imaginable, and yet I never knew anyone who bothered to get it for the Amiga, or the Atari ST, or Commodore 64, or anything. So it wasn't just me that thought the game was bad then. My advice is to steer, no pun intended, steer well clear of this game. It's truly awful. And that was my look back at Cisco Heat. If you enjoyed this video, then please do give me a sub and a thumbs up, or maybe even a comment or two below about your nightmares with Cisco Heat. And a massive thank you as always to all those who have subscribed and commented on my channel. Your feedback and support really does go a long way in helping the channel grow, and I do appreciate all of the feedback and support. So a massive thank you from me. And that's all from me, folks. Thanks for watching.